Okay, so for this recipe, you're gonna have to make a 24-hour bone broth. And I don't wanna make it sound more complicated than it really is. All you're doing is grabbing some beef marrow bones and you're gonna put it in a stock pot. You're gonna do it in a 1-to-1 ratio. So basically for every kilo of bones you have, you're gonna have a net yield of 1 liter of broth. For those of you who don't do kilos, basically a kilo for all intents and purposes is 2 pounds. So for every 2 pounds of bones you're gonna use, you're gonna have 1 liter. I just remember 1-to-1 a lot easier. And from coaching weightlifting, kilos is very easy for me to remember as well. Other things you're gonna need spices. These spices here are the ones that you typically always find in pho. So I am going to be using an onion, a couple cloves of garlic, some ginger, the spices or the aromatics that are going to go in, cinnamon, star anise, black peppercorns, black cardamom. It's not the green cardamom that you typically find in American grocery stores. Cloves, fennel. This is mushroom seasoning. We don't get het nem here, so I use mushroom seasoning instead. What it does is it really helps bolster up the flavor. It works kind of like an MSG, but it's not MSG. For those of you that think MSG is bad for you, it's actually not. And then I have some kosher salt and then some sugar. For weights, it is better to weigh it than to measure by volume. So we have 5 grams for the cinnamon, for the cardamom, and for the star anise. The black peppercorns is going to be 2 grams. Fennel is 1 gram. Cloves is also 1 gram. And then the het nem is 2 grams on it. And then I have 10 grams of both salt and sugar. That is going to be by taste. Basically when this is done, you want it to be a little salty, so when you add in the noodles and you add in the other ingredients, it balances out. The other thing that you're not seeing on here is going to be fish sauce. That is basically added in towards the end to basically get the seasoning in. I don't add additional salt. I normally go fish sauce. Once it gets to just that slightly fishy taste is where you want it to be at. For those of you that don't like that taste, right, then you're gonna add more salt into it. However, the Vietnamese way, you're gonna go with the fish sauce. Okay, while that is simmering here, I'm gonna go through all the steps that I just did. So the first thing that I did was I took some of the beef tallow that was from when I made the bone broth. Once it cools down, basically it's that white fat that forms at the top. It's the stuff in Fight Club that they were putting in the soap, right? I take that beef tallow or that beef fat and then I put it inside of the saucepan so that I can put a sear on some shank meat that I had. Once I had a sear on the shank meat, what I did was I went ahead and added the bone broth. From the video, you'll be able to see that the bone broth actually looks pretty gelatinous, and that's from the collagen that's inside of the marrow bones. If you really, really slow simmer the bones, you'll get that collagen out, and that's actually the texture that you're looking for. You'll notice from the different bone broths that I've made before in the past is that you can't see through it, but yet it's not cloudy, and that's what you're looking for. From there, after I did that, I went ahead and I roasted the shallots, the garlic, and also the ginger before that went into the saucepan. After that, I went ahead and I added in all the different aromatics. So I took the cinnamon, the fennel, the black pepper, the star anise, the cardamom, and I put that all inside of basically I think it's for steeping tea, but it also works to not have to have a lot of cheesecloth or used cheesecloth on there. So I did that instead. And then that is all in there. And then I added in the mushroom seasoning, some salt, and some sugar. What you'll notice is I didn't add in all the salt and I didn't add in all the sugar because it's one of those things where you can always add more, but it's really, really, really hard to try to figure out how to take some out. The only way to do that is to dilute the broth down a little bit, and that's not what we want. Remember, pho is supposed to be full of flavor and aroma and everything. The apartment actually smells amazing right now. So I'm gonna let that simmer here on really, really low heat, probably for 2, maybe even 3 hours. I'm gonna slowly check on it and everything. I'm gonna taste it to see where the flavors are gonna be at. Typically the 2 to 3 hour simmer is when I'm making a giant stock pot of it from the bone broth. But this might not take as much time, right? And the flavors might get there a lot faster on it. One of the things that you have to remember when you're working with aromatic and spices is there's a certain point where you're not going to extract any more flavor from them. And what ends up happening is it's just like tea. If you leave them in there too long, it starts to get this really, really bitter taste. It's actually really off-putting. So it's very important to taste it as you go. The very last step is going to be me finishing off with some fish sauce and then adjusting with a little bit of sugar as needed and a little bit of salt or more fish sauce to get the right flavor on it there. I have some limes here. I do have a red onion that I'm probably gonna slice up for some garnish, and then I have some cilantro in the fridge. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out. It's the first time I ever tried small batching it, and I'm hoping it turns out right. And I'll let you know how long I let everything steep for. But again, this is on a very, very low setting, and it's basically just simmering. So I'll bring it all the way to a boil when I'm ready to put it in a bowl. So we're about an hour in. I just added some fish sauce to the stock pot out there, or to the saucepan. Now I'm gonna sample it to see what it tastes like, to see if there's any adjustments you have to make. I added a spoonful like this. Remember, I just wanted a little fishy. Almost there, probably one more spoon. And we'll be good to go. Perfect. I'll let it finish off about the last 5 minutes while the noodles are getting ready. I heat up some proteins, so I'm doing a little something different just because it's still in the fridge. I got the beef shank, and then I also have some chicken breast that I'm gonna throw in there as well. Again, it's not something you would typically do. And then a couple of lime wedges because I do like it a little bit more on the lime side on it, to where you can taste that flavor as well. So, or basically the sourness from it. Yeah, this is pretty much done. I'm gonna plate it in about 5 minutes. So having no impurities in it is kind of a sign that you put in the time to make the broth properly. At least that's how it was explained to me by my mom and everyone in Vietnam. Alright, so the question that a lot of people have is, how do you eat pho? Are you supposed to put the hoisin sauce and the sriracha in the bowl, or do you dip? And to be honest, there is no right or wrong way. In Vietnam, I saw people doing it both ways. In the north though, their pho is a little bit more towards the beef flavor. It's much lighter. They put the herbs and everything in it right away for you. And there, they really don't use a lot of hoisin sauce, at least from what I observed. But in the south, I mean, that's where like all the aromatics and all that stuff came in there, where it's really, really evolved the bowl. So, to be honest, I am one of those that just puts the sauce right in the damn bowl because I'm too lazy to dip all the time. I still dip here and there and stuff, but just put it in the bowl. That's what I do. Now, I'm gonna enjoy this. Oh, you also notice I didn't use the correct pho noodles in here. I didn't have any, but I still had some of these noodles that I used for spring rolls. So that's what I put in here because use what's available. It's still a rice noodle and it still tastes the same. Let's try this now. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm gonna eat it with a piece of chicken with the beef broth. Oh my gosh. I don't even have the hoisin or sriracha in here yet. Just trying to take in all the flavors. Yep, 1 hour is perfect with all the spices in there. So, I hope you enjoy it. Give it a try.